Let's now discuss how and why states regulate nonprofits and understand the required incorporation, registration, licensing, and tax exemption filings necessary. The last phrase there, tax exemption, that's one of the main reasons why an organization organizes itself as a not-for-profit entity is so that it can do its service without having to pay, for example, income taxes at the federal level, income taxes at the state level, if applicable, but also many other types of taxes. This is at issue with many folks out there. Because if you think about it, we've already said that there are quite a few of these within the United States. They employ millions. There's billions of dollars being utilized by these organizations. So if you think about that, there is in fact likely billions, if not lots of millions, of taxes not being paid. Now, not-for-profit entities include such entities as churches. And again, religious organizations or churches and tax-exempt status is at issue with lots of people out there. So we have state and federal guidelines, if you will, that must be followed by these not-for-profit entities. Articles of incorporation in some way, shape, or form would be filed with the state. The textbook, again, is giving you lots of resources, so if you ever are in a position to need to access some of this information, go back and pull it up. One of the web pages that they list is multistatefiling.org. But I'm quite certain you could also go to Tennessee.gov, locate the Tennessee Secretary of State, and find information there just for the state of Tennessee. So the nonprofit would have to go through the state and basically provide information so that the state grants them a legal existence of some type within the state. And then at that same time, the nonprofit would also likely be applying for tax exemption status in regards to state-imposed taxes. So, for example, sales and use tax, personal property taxes, if the state happens to have a state income tax, and some other ones that could apply. And then also at that same time, the entity would need to file with the IRS in regards to wanting tax exemption status at the federal income tax level. Quite certain that in your tax classes, your professor likely discussed with you that the IRS has firm deadlines, so certain things have to be requested or filed within a certain number of days. So just remember that, if you're in charge of helping out a client with this kind of thing, you need to make sure that you access and file things in a timely manner. Otherwise, there could be a major problem with something such as tax exemption status not being granted due to a delay in time. With a newly formed organization, its managers, its board, they're all officially tasked with oversight, responsibility, and performance of the organization once this has been established. Now think about it. When we operate as a nonprofit, we are working with the funds of others, whether those came through as charitable contributions of some sort or some type of grant. Therefore, a lot of transparency in regards to operations, position, and services provided is necessary and expected. Because think about it. It's not just the contributors that want to know, but also the state and the federal government, because they're granting, most likely, tax exemption status for the majority of the things that go on within the organization. And the states and the federal government have a responsibility to protect the public at large. Both the recipients or the beneficiaries of the services are to be protected in some way, shape, or form, hopefully from not being harmed by an organization. And then also that state and Fed are in a way acting upon the benefit of the contributors, the ones who are providing the proceeds, because they want to be giving those to a legitimate organization that's complying with all laws and regulations and actually providing a service and keeping their costs to a minimum in doing so. So with that, it requires additional information, likely through registrations, licenses, certifications that may be necessary to operate. These could apply at the federal level, the state level, and or local. All right, so depending on what area or jurisdiction the nonprofit is operating in, somebody needs to be in charge of the research and making sure that all those obligations are being met. The textbook goes into the fact that in some areas that nonprofits may actually have to obtain a license to solicit charitable contributions. So charitable solicitations are the direct or indirect requests for money, credit, property, financial assistance, or other things of value on the representation that the assets, once given to the nonprofit, will be used for a charitable purpose. All right, so all of these things need to be complied with based on the jurisdiction. Not only are we worried about compliance at the state and local level, but we also need to be concerned with the management and the board of the organization. There should be bylaws in place. There should be policies and procedures. Again, this textbook is a great resource, not only with websites and organizations sprinkled throughout the chapter, but also at the back of the chapter. All right, there's more websites and additional information that could be accessed. So these nonprofits should comply with all requirements, including any reports that need to be filed, whether they're annual in nature, biannual, etc., both with the local and the state, but even with the federal government. What does everybody expect for them to file, and when must it be filed? People need to keep up with that information. There may be the requirement for the entity to have actual external auditors come in and audit the information, and an audit report may have to be sent in with some of the filings or the registrations or the licensing. There may be requirements for very explicit information to be disclosed within any of the reports. But also, they may even require explicit information to be listed in anything that is printed about the nonprofit, whether it goes out paper-based or digital. That includes websites. So again, compliance is a big thing. Another thing that was mentioned in the text is a resource, nasconet.org, NASCONET.org, where this particular organization has information regarding fundraising over the internet. Again, especially in this day and age, we've got social media, and there are all different ways that nonprofits do, in fact, ask for donations. And there's a lot of compliance out there with accepting people's money over the internet. Think about it. There are regulations and things that have to be complied with in regards to accepting credit cards and the information that's contained on a credit card and how an organization stores that data. All right, so there's a lot of things that for-profit businesses have to deal with that nonprofits also have to deal with. And let me just say that non-compliance or untimely handling of things can cause major issues. For example, failure to file or late filing could cause massive problems, including such things as revocation of nonprofit status, fines of some sort. So again, there's a lot of compliance here. Last comment for now in regards to not-for-profits and just considering the state level jurisdiction. Again, it's going to be somebody's responsibility to make sure the organization is operating appropriately. And there are even nonprofits that are organized as political parties, campaign committees, or political action committees. And again, each state is going to have its own laws and regulations regarding how things can work within their state. So the state specifics must be known by the organization. It affects not only operating, but also the reporting mechanisms. Again, there can be penalties, fines, sanctions, even such as revoking tax exemption status if items are not complied with properly.